All right. Hi, everyone. This is Maria Feekes. I'm Executive Director of ADONIS Fertility International, and today I'm very excited to be with you. It's kind of a beginning of the year. I know many companies and many teams are sending the notes about here's what we've done for the year. Here's what we doing exciting things for the new year. So we wanted, I guess I really wanted to focus today on just the variety of services that we provide because there have been many things in development, many things have been happening in parallel. But depending on how families, how you guys got to know us or how you referred to us, you might know us from just one side and not the other, okay? So that's why I just want to provide a kind of quick update on, the variety of fertility services that we do. And then if you have any further questions, yes, and you would like specifically to talk about a particular program or how it applies to you or to the people that you know, please do not hesitate to reach out, okay? So we'll post my contact information. We absolutely could have a very detailed review of the program proposal and everything that goes into your program. Okay. So with that, just a little bit of history, okay? Because again, I don't know how you got to know us or at what phase of the journey you're listening to us. So ADONIS Fertility International, we specifically started to support our families from North America for the surrogacy that is done in Ukraine. So that was a regional start of ADONIS Fertility for us as an agency because ADONIS Medical Group, located in Ukraine, is really one of the most prevalent and large private medical operations in Ukraine. Notice that when families were coming from North America for surrogacy services or other fertility services like IVF or donor eggs to Ukraine, that there was a lack, because of the time zone and also maybe lack of understanding of some of the needs and some of the specifics of North America, that we needed to have our representation here. Yes, so that's originally how we started. So we specifically were focusing on just services, fertility services in Ukraine. Surrogacy is a big portion of that. Egg donor programs is a big portion of that. And, before new reality of Ukraine, before the, invasion in 2022 or February of 2022, also we had quite a few families coming for the IVF services as well, specifically from North America, right? From Canada and from United States. And then well, not only just in 2022, but even earlier, we started having more and more requests from the families that we support because feedback has been really phenomenal. And they loved, how we approach each family and how we really stay from the beginning to the end and how responsible to you, for everything and how detailed we work. So the families were asking us, is there any way that we could be doing the same support, but already for the services in United States or maybe other markets? Okay. And when you're saying support in United States, it's not just for the families that are considering doing programs in Ukraine, for example, but the whole surrogacy program or fertility program from start to finish in USA. Okay, so this was one of the things. There were several reasons. One definitely is limitations of legislation for who can participate in a surrogacy in Ukraine, right? So it's not available to every family. The legislation is built in such way that surrogacy in Ukraine is available only to heterosexual married couples with medical indication for surrogacy. And there is a very specific list, very narrow list on what is considered to be medical indication for surrogacy. Okay, like for example, families are asking sometimes, age. I am older, right? Well, your age is not an indication for surrogacy because, with the bigger and bigger advancements of the assisted reproductive technology, really, there are many known cases when you could be carrying a baby yourself, the pregnancy through the means of IVF, even if you consider yourself older, right? So age by itself is not, but the legislation of Ukraine states what are those requirements and rules and regulations. And another requirement is also genetic connection to a baby, at least between baby and one parent, right? So remember, surrogacy in Ukraine is only available for the heterosexual married couples, okay? So that means that there are many families that no matter if they wish to use Ukraine or not, they are not able to do that because of those limitations. It could be a single parent household, right? Which, guys, even like we had cases, even for example, mothers that do not have uterus, right? Um, Clearly a medical indication, clearly surrogacy is the only option for them to have a dream of a child, but they still did not qualify, right? So, or we had families, for example, where family is divorced, or where one parent, after creation of the biomaterial, has passed away. Not possible, right? So that's really, that opened up um, the need for the high quality services for quite a large number of families with different backgrounds. And, one more category, of course, and I don't know if that meets your situation or not. So you could be family, heterosexual, married, um, but the embryos that you have created, they're using both donor materials. So this is, again, this will not work for Ukraine. So that's why, we looked into other options. And so today I really kind of want to, maybe summarize. So if you're at the point where you're making decision and you're saying, specifically for surrogacy, and then I'm going to go into egg donation as well. I could talk about IVF too, but some of the biggest, just because we are including, kind of Ukrainian market, international market. Surrogacy is definitely a big one for that. IVF is a little bit different because when you're doing IVF, and I should specify because sometimes I hear that families and different, professionals using the term interchangeably. So when we're talking about IVF, right now I'm talking about where you are planning to carry a pregnancy yourself. Yes. So, but IVF also means egg retrieval. You going through your own egg retrieval, right? So the embryos are created. But again, this portion could be you creating your embryos from your oocytes, yes, from your eggs, from your biological material. But then you still need to have surrogate to carry. Now, if you don't need surrogate to carry, but you will be the one carrying the pregnancy. You will be going through stimulation and embryo transfer, right? That's what I mean. And so for this, it's not just the cost that you're looking into, but it's definitely convenience, yes, of the service. And what we are noticing that, definitely to do this service, so if you, let's say in the United States, to do with the clinics available here, phenomenal results, and you still could be finding some very cost-effective solutions. So that's why, we really don't deal a lot with the international options for IVF, okay? But for the surrogacy, yes. So let me just kind of summarize maybe, some of your considerations and pros and cons. And again, we could be looking into each of these avenues in detail, specifically to each of your cases. Just reach out and I'm happy to support you and review your priorities and, everything. So I'm actually going to start with surrogacy in United States. Okay, so surrogacy in United States, I know it's, it's a very attractive, it's a very solid, incredible program. Okay, and especially for many families that, for many families that are in the United States, yes, but also for the families actually internationally who are looking to have a very robust medical system, rules and regulations. Surrogacy in the United States is a great option. It's also a great option because it does not limit who can participate in the surrogacy program. Now, I should have it with an asterisk because yes, there are some states where there are limitations, but in majority of cases, you could find, quite a few states that absolutely, there is no limitations on who could be part of the journey. Downside could be, which that's really what prohibits many families to use this type of surrogacy, is the cost. Guys, if you're looking for cost-effective solution, Surrogacy in United States will not be that, right? And of course, you could say, well, any cost is relevant, right? Something that I might think cost effective is not cost effective for you, and vice versa. I am so sorry. I'm in Colorado, and the dryness of air during the winter is insane. So yes, but just put things into perspective. So for example, surrogacy, just the surrogacy portion. And I need to tell you, like, we are very, very frugal with all of our costs. And I know that there is so many things where we have options for reducing the cost, which we are doing for our families. But surrogacy in the United States, you will be looking at about 130,000. Okay, this is without the egg donor portion. This is if you already have embryos created. Okay, and the price still could vary depending on where your surrogate is coming from, what is is she experienced or not, what is her compensation requirements, things like we're looking into the insurance and when you submitting into the insurance, right? When I'm saying when, like there is a timeline when there could be insurance available. It's called through Affordable Care Act, versus different type of insurances. So all of that is kind of shaping your costs. And of course, what is the fertility clinic that will be doing the program. So yeah, so it does not come, at I don't want to say cheap price, right? It's nothing I think is cheap when it comes to fertility, but it's definitely less cost effective than other markets. On the other side, you have some very incredible pluses. Okay, we cannot overlook that. For example, you could be a big part of the journey, especially like, so if you're American citizens or you physically located in America, yes, and your surrogate is also in America, and the clinic and all of the pregnancy observation and everything. It could be such a beautiful journey just because you're a big part of it physically. Okay, it's you still, of course, in other programs that we do, you of course you get all the regular updates from the surrogate and the photos, the videos, but it's still not the same as you, for example, coming and joining an appointment, yes, and having this very intimate and wonderful connections. Of course, another option, big plus, I think, is just, this incredible support of the medical institutions and, the rules and regulations that exist, as it pertains to the fertility services and to all of the steps of the pregnancy and delivery, right? So you have this assurance that everything is done to the highest standards. So I think definitely USA comes with this level of the quality. Yes, that is just really across the board. And other things is even logistical, pluses for you. I'm not talking now about the international families that are doing surrogacy in the United States. I'm more talking about US families, families that are located in the United States doing in the United States. Big plus, of course, you don't have this long distance travel, right? So everything is done once again here after baby is born, all of your paperwork and everything is completed here. Okay, so as far as the type of the programs that we have, we more call it like basic programs, and I will explain to you why we kind of call it basic when I compare it with Ukraine and Mexico for you. Basic program is where everything is from start to finish of your journey, and it's included one time, right? And then if you have additional, so for example, if you need to have additional embryo transfer or other procedures, that's going to be an addition for your budget, okay? I know there are companies in the United States that have programs, they call them guaranteed, okay? Again, knowing the programs in and out, I strongly believe, and I know my team believes, that it's actually would be a quite disservice to you on a budgeting side. for several reasons, right? So in order, and so, the guaranteed programs for United States, they're going to be running, depending on how much is included. There is some that are called more like unlimited programs, and the ones that include particular number of tries and things like that, and surrogates. So you're going to be looking at like, 230, 350,000. Okay. So from one side, it's definitely going to be presented to you as a peace of mind. Yes, it is a peace of mind. The challenges here are is that those programs, they have to be budgeted in a way that still, there is a very high chances for success on the first try. Yes, and yet, if there is not a success, there is still enough cushion, to where the providers, who are building these budgets, they are not at loss. Because imagine if every single program goes into everything that is being budgeted in this program, right? Especially like, programs like Unlimited, there is absolutely no way that any of those companies would be in business. So what really the notion is yes, let us have those, very loaded programs with with those notion of success. We know that especially for the programs when it's surrogacy with egg donation, for example, success rates for surrogacy is very high. Right? So when family pays a program 350,000, but most likely the majority of the families, maybe 90% of them, going to use program only one time, they're never going to even get to those limits, then all of those additional money that are being there, they being kept in the program and then continue being distributed to the organizers of the program. So that's kind of, so again, it goes back to maybe like the ethics, it goes back into just how we see what it means supporting the families and do the best decisions for the families. So for United States specifically, where the costs are already so huge, and also because the success also depends on all of the medical institutions, right? We didn't feel that it's right to do those programs. So we believe that the basic program is phenomenal. Everything from start to finish is very transparent on what is included and also what kind of clinics and what kind of providers are included. And then you have more control, I guess, with then maybe even selecting the clinics, or even, we could be working, negotiating with the clinics if we want to see, yes, is there any support that could be done? What if there is more than one try, or something like that? Then it's really more specific to each provider. So this is just how we do that. Now, for the surrogate, I should share that as well. One thing that is applicable to United States, but it's not applicable to Ukraine, or it's not applicable to Mexico, is, for example, the fact that there is such thing as the base compensation that is going to surrogate. So that base compensation, guys, in United States, I would say probably on average is about 50,000, right? There could be plus or minuses on the cost depending on the experience of the surrogate, which location she's coming from, and so forth. But say like, it's pretty average to have it at about 50,000. That's not the only compensation that the surrogate going to be getting. There are many other categories that are built in. A lot of them you hope that they never happen. They're more like, risk type situations. And it's really fair that those things are built in and the surrogate will be getting them if those events will happen. But we all hope that it never does. Like, for example, loss of organ. Yes. Or, C-section or some other things. So, but if we're looking just at this base compensation, just the word base compensation is different than what would be used in Ukraine or Mexico. In Ukraine or Mexico, it's called final compensation. So the difference is that that base compensation, you're going to be start paying this out to your surrogate in equal increments, okay, from the moment of confirmation of heartbeat, right? So no matter if then there is going to be a miscarriage or not, will the baby be born or not, you will be paying those amounts. And if you divide 50,000 by the number of months in the pregnancy, you know that it's going to be quite substantial amounts. Again, we're hoping that everything is well, and your surrogate gets pregnant, and she carries the pregnancy to the very end. But if you are talking about surrogacy, it means that you are dealing with a fertility journey. It means that you have had some hardships, yes, or you're in a situation where, like, again, like, if it's a same-sex couple, or maybe a single-family household, it still means that you have some limitations, and it's important to look into them. So this is one thing, so we're always looking what are the risks, and I definitely could see that this is one of the risks for you guys as intended parents. And there is just no way of mitigating that, right? The big pluses that still exist for this program, they outweigh that. And that's what also, when we're coming and we're looking into, how we're selecting surrogates, how we're testing them, how we're screening them, how we're making sure that they, the most medically, physically, psychologically fit for the program. And then being very critical on which fertility clinic we work with. So that all goes into the success. But still, there is a chance that it could be where several months have been paid of this base compensation, and then you still don't have a baby. Yes, this risk exists. Okay. So when it comes to surrogacy, now let's talk maybe close a little bit to the border of United States, surrogacy in Mexico. So we started this program last year. This kind of was the same notion that families were just coming and saying, listen, like, we need this service, and we want to make sure that we do it with you guys because we know your big due diligence and big care for us. But United States is outside of our price range. No matter what we do, even if we take the loan, even if we do the second mortgage, we cannot afford that, right? So yes, many families cannot even, begin to afford surrogacy in the United States. And for the reasons that we have mentioned above, yes, surrogacy in Ukraine is not an option for them as well because they do not meet the requirements. So Mexico really came as a very great option. So we definitely, like, if you brainstorming, we would be, open to brainstorm, this with you as well. So we have some phenomenal medical teams in Mexico that we're working with, and phenomenal, legal team, coordination team. Pluses for Mexico, yes, that is more cost effective. It's not as cost effective as Ukraine, but it is more cost effective than United States. The downside is there is a lot of gray areas with the surrogacy and regulations of surrogacy in Mexico compared to, let's say, Ukraine or to United States. That's where the providers and who you select is extremely important, because then it really means what kind of regulations we're putting on the medical side. What are the requirements for the surrogate, for the egg donor, right? And so many things. You do have a big cost will be the legal cost. I actually think that the legal costs in Mexico are even higher than in the United States, which, I mean, you could be surprised about it, but I think it goes back, some limitations and regulations. So, but overall, the budget of the program is more cost effective. There is some more assurances that we could build in. There is still such thing as insurance for the surrogate that we could offset some of your costs. And we could have some more variety of the type of programs because we have because of how the medical side is organized. That's really could be a very good big cost saving for you, where there is some more tries are included into your program. So this is a possibility. In Mexico, it can be done there, and it makes sense. Okay. As far as but the minus, then yes, you have to travel internationally. Yes, it's not going to be in your neighborhood. And the question will a lot of times we're getting, how long does it take after the baby is born? It's really going to be depending on your particular situation, because there is a difference if it's two parents, if it's a one parent. if there is a genetic link or there is no genetic link to a baby, things like that. So, but on average, we're recommending to look about 2 to 4 weeks, okay? And this is more where the cases are more standard. So what we do is we always start with the end goal in mind. So we're not going to be starting the project with you for Mexico or any international programs until we really have we vetted, and we understand through the legal teams, through coordination and everything, and with you, for you as well, on how that exit process, we call it exit process. How does it look like? What is the paperwork? What is the establishment of your parental rights? The citizenship, all of that. So, so I would say yes, if we're looking into that, definitely this would be one of the first steps that we will be doing with you. So you really understand the timelines, you really understand the process, and all the parties have a full assurance on that. Okay. So, and then the next thing is we're working, so really the program we have done the longest time is that, surrogacy in Ukraine. Really phenomenal support from the legislation as far as, once you meet the criteria, yes, how it's being, supported, I shouldn't say like federal level, but they, like to compare with the United States, you kind of have like the local laws that exist in each state, and then, the federal level. So if we were to bring it to the same denominator, in Ukraine, you have, it's being regulated on the federal level, not on locals. So across the board, it's, protection of your decision rights, of your, parental rights. So this is very strong. And then of course, the cost much lower. So remember when I was talking about, surrogacy in America, just the surrogacy portion, you're looking about 130,000. In Ukraine, we're looking from start to finish, everything included one time. We're looking at about 46,000, guys. Yes, all of the standard costs are included. So definitely night and day. Yes. But then the minus, of this, definitely even compared to Mexico, for example, is quite long distance for you for the travel. If you are in North America, if you are in the United States, like if you're in Europe, of course, it's much closer for you. But if you're in the United States or Canada, your travel, your commute will be quite long. So the trip to pick up your baby will be different. The good news is you can start program remotely. You don't have to travel. We're transporting biomaterial there, to the clinic. We organize, setting up all of the documents and everything through the power of attorney. So it's possible. So you do not need to physically appear in the country. Actually, for the start of the program, you only come in to pick up the baby. And then the process to pick up the baby from Ukraine for, I should say, it still depends on the citizenship of the parents. But, right now, like for the purpose of this conversation, because a lot of you I know listening, you're from United States or Canada, the process is for United States is about a week from moment of birth, and for Canada, it might be about a week, week and a half, something like that. Okay. So it is quite streamlined. It's very straightforward. So this is good pluses. Now, when we are coming to type of the programs, yes, so there is surrogacy, just the surrogacy. There is surrogacy with egg donation. We also could have surrogacy with sperm donation. I just honestly didn't have many of those cases. Majority of the families, they really fall fast in the category just the surrogacy, where you already have embryos created, or you require an egg donor. Okay, so the big plus of that is we do have access to ADONIS egg bank, which is phenomenal, world-renowned egg bank, and we have donor options available in Ukraine. We have donor options in Mexico as well, and we have donor oocytes, frozen donor oocytes already in the United States, located in San Diego. So it's very convenient, very comfortable to satisfy whatever, location, whatever market you need. And because of very robust operation and where the donors are coming from, we are able to have significant cost reductions as well. I'm especially excited about this option for United States because, guys, just the egg donor portion, could run you astronomical amount of money. For example, I was talking yesterday to one of the families, who are considering donor in America. One of the companies that they were looking into, they were getting the lot of just 6 to 8 oocytes, frozen oocytes, for $20,000, guys. This is not even the cost of embryo creation or anything. And this is probably not the most expensive egg bank. To compare, through Adonis Egg Bank, we are able to provide phenomenal donors. Our lots, the most expensive lot that we have is 14 oocytes, guys, 14 compared to 6, yes? So it's more than double. And the cost is close to 15,000. Okay. So believe me, like all of those things, they definitely could add up, and I could really share with you, the pros and cons, frozen versus fresh. And then if it's frozen, what should be, what would be consideration for the lot size and so forth. But that's really where I think more specifically we could be spending time with you, really kind of dreaming, brainstorming, what are your priorities? What is your situation? What is your budget? And I had to say, like, what is your budget? Because definitely we want you to have achieve the dream of the baby, with as least cost as possible, but still, just even going into the program, I know there is a big difference for families who are saying, I want to have everything done in America. I want to have as much assurance, and yes, 350,000 is not a big deal for me, versus family who is saying, I have mortgage, second mortgage, we have put like lifetime savings into the program. We need to have a baby. We only have one chance. What can we do? So we're going to be very open and brainstorming with you those possibilities, and really sharing, like, what are the pros and cons. Okay. So I guess that's really, I know I kind of ran with a huge speed, but I really want you to know that we do have those three regions, Ukraine, United States, Mexico. Each of them have phenomenal pluses. Yes, they do have downsides as well, but excited to, definitely I'm excited to review in details with you. Okay. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm just kind of looking, and let me think. As I was talking, there was one more idea came to mind. So we talked about surrogacy, we talked about egg donation legislation, a little bit touched on, really, if we were to talk in details about legislations, the legal agreements and everything, we need to have some, other separate topics. And actually we do have some webinars in the past from a perspective like of surrogacy agreement, of the exit process, things like that. So definitely feel free to refer to that. Yes, cannot think right now of any. Oh, okay. Yes. So then, kind of touched on about, yes. So if you need to go through your egg retrieval, um, for Ukraine, yes, you absolutely could travel, guys. But again, realistically, by the time that you're done with your traveling costs, including your flight, including the time that you need to be away. So, for if we're doing egg retrieval or embryo transfer for you, and we're doing it in clinics in Ukraine, we still recommend that you're away for probably 3 weeks, right? There could be even additional weeks if we're doing some more, if you cannot do some of the pre-testing ahead of time. So yeah, so think about it. You're going to be away for this amount of time, and the travel cost, from United States to Ukraine is not as cheap, right? Because like even the distance and everything. So I think by the time you're done, again, we definitely could find very robust, highly competitive programs in United States. So let's brainstorm that. And there are also, more expensive clinics in the United States. Yes, but they could be right in your neighborhood, very easy to get in and out. And when we're talking about egg retrieval, when we're talking about your stimulation for the embryo transfer, your state of mind, your convenience, stress-free process is just so important. I am not a doctor, but I have seen results, and I know, and I also work with so many families that I know when you going through it yourself, yes, there is just so much more to success than just money. So we have to look into that. Um, if we are, the other question I know comes a lot is about biotransport. So if we are doing transportation within the United States, so for example, if your surrogate is not located in the area, but you really love the surrogate, let's say East Coast, but your surrogate may be in California, for example, or whatever could be, because we do have situations like that. Yes, and you're saying that you really need to have the process as cost effective. We have some clinics that we know in different parts of United States that definitely their budget is more affordable. Yes. So in this case, for example, if you need to have your embryos transported, or maybe if we're using the egg donor, and let's say you're going with us for the whole bundle program, including our frozen donor eggs, which is located in San Diego, California, but then your clinic where you're going to be creating embryos and where we're going to be doing embryo transfer for your surrogate is located right in another state. So not a problem. So biotransport within the United States, there are several options. Like cryoport is a big one. If you want to have more hands-on, I would recommend that's especially for if we're transporting embryos. Now, if we're transporting donor eggs or if we're transporting sperm, we have done a lot where literally we would use UPS services, and it has been working phenomenally. And not just for us, I know many clinics are using that as well. So we could brainstorm that. But guys, the moment that we are working on biotransport internationally, we working only with the hand carry couriers. Okay. So that's absolutely must. It's mandatory. We're not doing any cargo shipments. We're not doing anything. Yes, where some companies, and we had some very, very prominent companies in the biotransport that are highly respected and regarded and even considered to be, gold standard, for example, in the United States. But what they were proposing for the international transport was just not working, right? Like they were proposing having many labels, still go cargo. It means, it goes more like a shipment. There is no human next to it. And, the process for the customs where you just put many labels and say fragile, don't x-ray, don't touch, don't tip and everything. It just does not work. So if you work with us, we will be approving only hand carry couriers. And we work with some very phenomenal companies that we have worked for a really long time, and we know they're doing a phenomenal job. So we'll plan that logistics and do it with you. And we do the full coordination, so you don't need to worry about the paperwork, none of that. So this is just additional kind of service that goes into it. And I guess one more thing I could touch on, since we're still talking about the programs, even though we had the separate topic about that, but it's the financing as well. Yes, because no matter if you are doing it in United States, right, where bigger funding is needed, or in Mexico, in Ukraine, the funding is still substantial. So parents are always asking us, do we have any grant money or anything? We do not have any grant money ourselves. Yes, so we don't have that, unfortunately. But I know that some families, they were able to use some benefits accounts through their companies. So you definitely, guys, before you make any assumptions, and that's what several of my families have said, there are so many things that they thought is not available to them. So don't say no for others, right? So please check and ask if there is some options available. Don't just assume that there's things not available for your funding. Definitely, search. There are different support groups that exist for particular categories of the families. Yes. So if you look for the fertility grants for your specific category, your specific situation, you might be surprised what could be available. Otherwise, we also have partnered with a phenomenal team. Their name is CapEx MD. We had a meeting with them as well, webinar. You could listen to it. So they have some very cost-effective solutions as far as for medical credits for the loans. That also has been kind of life-saving, lifesaver, I should say, for some of the families. A couple other things, if we're talking about financing, also to keep in mind, in Ukraine, we have more pay-as-you-go, right? Unless you're in a special type of the program, pay-as-you-go model. For Mexico, it's a little bit more prepayment, but because the budget numbers are different, that prepayment, it's easier for you to budget. Now, in United States, if we're doing surrogacy programs in United States, you have to have such thing as called trust account or escrow account in place. Yes. So in essence, your funds will be not dispersed or spent at all at once. No, absolutely not. But you will need to have those funds available, placed into the trust account or escrow account. And then based on agreements and regulations, those funds will be withdrawn from your account. We like to use Seed Trust because it has a very transparent operation. Maybe other companies have other options. So we could brainstorm as well, but as far as having funds available, they will be set aside physically from your account into that trust account. So you need to, yes, budget and plan for that as well. Okay. Yeah, so any questions, anything, let me know. I don't see any hands up. So you will have my contact information. My team and I, we're so like, we are so excited, always so humbled and so privileged, I guess, to really be your thinking partners to your journeys. So whatever support you need, and guys, it doesn't matter if you go with us or not, but if we could help you brainstorm, see through the pros and cons, see what kind of questions you need to be asking your providers, your surrogates, and the donors, and different stakeholders. We're here for you. Okay. All right. Well, with that, thank you so much. Thank you, and have an incredible year.